Welcome back to the Kent Battle of Britain Museum at Hawkinge. We're a couple of days away from reopening for the 2022 season. We open on Saturday the 2nd of April, so we hope that many of you will be able to visit us over the next 7.5 months, which is our season, and we close on the 13th of November this year. This winter has been a usual busy period for the volunteers. Every winter we use the money we've accrued over the previous season to actually improve and expand the museum. So there's many improvements to see, one of which is just behind. We're very lucky to acquire some of the 610 Squadron Association items, some Battle of Britain, some are later in the war, which will be displayed as we acquire some land next door. But behind us on the wall, we've got a lovely large photograph of 610 Squadron taken at Hawkinge on the 29th of July 1940 when Fox Photos visited. We've got a squadron status board showing the aircraft that are available on the 24th of August, a couple of crests, and we're very honoured to be chosen to look after the squadron standard behind. I'll take you further up the hangar. We can see a couple more exhibits that are new to the collection. Some of the winter rejigging of the museum has seen that we've acquired 3 new engines to the collection. Just over my left shoulder, we've got a Rolls-Royce Merlin Mark III. It was lost later in the war, but it actually the Hurricane flew with 302 Squadron during the Battle of Britain, so it's an important squadron, often overlooked in the Battle of Britain story. So we've got that engine there. We can tell the story of about, I think it's 8 or 9 Battle of Britain pilots that flew it during the Battle of Britain period, including Laguna, who's got a Spitfire being rebuilt at the moment. What happened when we acquired the Heinkel had spent a period of its life as a Casa, and we had a couple of large components of Rolls-Royce Merlin engines that were used during the time as a Casa. We swapped one of those engines with our good friend Andy Panton at the Lincolnshire Aviation Heritage Centre for this engine, so that joined us just after Christmas this year. It's still actually got oil running out of it. There's a big patch of black oil on there, but that is original wartime oil. And if we follow me over here, we're incredibly lucky to have these 2 Rolls-Royce Peregrine engines on long-term loan with us from Steve Fizzard. There was 301 Rolls-Royce Peregrines built. There's only 2 known surviving examples anywhere in the world, and they're both here now at the Kent Battle of Britain Museum at Hawkinge. Their significance is they were actually lost in the Battle of Britain, the 7th of August 1940. A chap called McDermott took off, had a tyre blow and he damaged his undercarriage, so he was ordered to actually bail out. So they were lost during the Battle of Britain while flying with 263 Squadron. Whirlwinds were coming on straight. There's about 8 whirlwinds that flew with 263 in the Battle of Britain, but never in anger. But they were still on squadron strength in the Battle of Britain, and hence our major involvement with the Western Whirlwind Fighter Project, which we'll see in June this year. We'll actually have a cockpit and nose of the Western Whirlwind that's being currently built by Peter Smith. It's a stunning recreation. It's basically it's a new build aircraft. It's absolutely stunning. We've moved the tractor out with the Hurricanes in the ground, but the actual cockpit and nose section will be where the Bowser is. That will come out and join the tractor in the summer. The Western Whirlwind display is also moved to in front of those, so it tells the story of that aircraft with other parts. So we'll move on to the home front area where we've done some more improvements this winter. We're now in the Link Trainer building. This building was built pre-war. It's one of the original buildings on site. And the Link Trainer is the modern flight simulator we house in here. But for the museum, it holds our extensive collection of home front related items. This cabinet always upset me because we traditionally, all our cabinets are built out of second-hand patio doors. It makes it affordable for us as a charity, so we spend our lives collecting second-hand patio doors that we recycle into the majority of the cabinets that you see around the museum. This was one that we built, I built this probably about 25 years ago, and we used to build the cabinets with the plastic or aluminium frames. So when you looked at this cabinet, all I could see when I walked past was massive frames. They were 4-inch surround, so each joint here was 8 inches wide. So I decided this winter to completely rip out the front of the cabinet, replace it. Majority is the same glass, but we took them out the frames and built the wooden surround. So it makes it a lot better representation, and you see the exhibits rather than the glass around it. So that's just one of the other little subtle improvements we've done. You'll notice in the videos as well that all the floors have been freshly painted. We do that religiously every year before we open because we like the museum to be seen as we want it to be seen, and as clean and tidy as our front room. It's just the respect and love that we have for our subject, which hopefully everybody sees when they come in and see how well presented, the glass is polished daily, things like that. Also, there's another display here that we've added, which is a large collection of all the different sorts of cigarette boxes cigarette cards that were there in 1940. That's been added to the home larder cabinet. But we're going to now move into the Lord Downing hangar, where we've built some new cabinets for the Focke-Wulf 190 and the Hawker Tempest displays, which covers the tip and run raids on Great Britain and then the Fee 1 and Fee 2 attacks on Great Britain. So follow me and we're going to there next. Another old winter projects where we had two display cabinets displaying these items from two Focke-Wulf 190s lost attacking Britain during the middle stages of the war. Both were damaged cabinets. So what we've built, we built three purpose-built cabinets. The glass was very kindly donated by On Time Windows in Cheriton, so thanks to them. But we've now got the two Focke-Wulf 190s. We've also got the items relating to Ted Koch, who was lost in a Hawker Tempest in July 1944, chasing a Fee 1 flying bomb. I believe it actually shot down by British attack guns, unfortunately, and it goes very nicely with his engine behind, which is one of the rare Napier Sabre H-block horizontally opposed engines. We've also swapped the engines round. This again, when I used to walk around the museum, I noticed that the Focke-Wulf 190 engine, the BMW 801 radial engine, was blocking a lot of the Messerschmitt 109 behind. So quite a simple thing. We swapped the engines round. Julian very kindly fabricated a larger supporting frame so the engine is higher up. But now you can see a lot more of the Messerschmitt behind. But you can clearly see the Napier Sabre engine with the items from the same aircraft, the Focke-Wulf with its engine behind. And it just tells the forgotten part of the Second World War. And as the Battle of Britain, we tell the story of the First Battle of Britain, the Gotham and Zeppelin attacks on Great Britain in the First World War. The Battle of Britain, of course, but we also set the picture with the tip and run attacks with the Focke-Wulf 190s. And then later, the Fee 1 and Fee 2 attacks with Tempest was lost. So it just tells you about all the attacks on Great Britain during the 20th century, and mainly obviously concentrate on the Battle of Britain 1940, the summer of. Next, we're going to go over to the operation block, where we've rebuilt some more cabinets over there. We're now in the operation block, which in the war would be the control tower. A lot of people walk past the operation block, probably think it's something to do with the hospital, but it's where all the air control for the airfield was monitored from here. It was later in the war when the traditional two-storey control towers came in. So this building, in conjunction with the flight hut, would deal with all the actual air control for RAF Hawkinge. This is the heart of the museum. We've recovered over 700 Battle of Britain aircraft over the last 57, 58 years, and most of which are actually on display here. Some are fragments, some are larger items, but each are there to tell the story of the pilot, the aircrew, and often who shot them down. When we built the original cabinet here, we would have built that in the late 1980s, at which time most of the displays here would be out of second-hand wood. This had unfortunately some woodworm, so we've ripped it all out and built a brand new cabinet. We built in higher ceilings to add more displays in, better lighting, and that's again one of the projects we've done this winter. Again, using second-hand patio doors. Kindly, these were donated by On Time Windows in Cheriton, so if they come and do your patio doors, they don't send them to scrap to be melted down. We obviously acquire them, but it's original make to amends. There's another big improvement to the museum. I'm just finishing the caption over the next couple of days for when we open on Saturday. And there's other items being added to the display in here, and still some more bits and pieces to add. So we've had a look at this. We'll go out and have a look at the Blenheim and the Spirit of the Few monuments just outside. Behind me, you'll see our Bristol Blenheim Mark IV, or basically a Bolenbrock. Everyone that you see around the world are Bolenbrocks, truthfully, but they're the Canadian-built Bristol Blenheim. This is the Mark IV. It's got the swept nose. A lot of people actually think that is actually crash damage. That is actually sculpted like that, so the pilot's got better forward vision. We've had a problem with the glazing because of the pandemic, but that will be resolved this year, so it should be fully glazed in during the summer of this year, as well as some repairs to the hindquarter glazing, but so that's been held by the pandemic. But during the pandemic, Bradley Day, one of our volunteers, has had the engine mounts and the undercarriage mounts. He took that home to his workshop, has been building these up over the last sort of 18 months and returned with them about a month ago. So they've now been fitted to the Bristol Blenheim, ready to actually mount it onto its undercarriage legs, which we hope to do probably about December this year, maybe January next year. So it should be a little bit higher, set on undercarriage legs for next year. We've also, 2 weeks ago, Brad and me, we closed up the gap between the fuselage, the centre section of the cockpit, so it's looking a lot better. Until we elevate it, we can't completely tie up, because this will need to be about another probably 12, 14 inches higher, so it'll make it very difficult to do the jobs we need to do on this section. Also, we've had some good news in the last couple of weeks, is that we've been waiting for a set of wings to come over from Arizona. They're going to be loaded in the next few weeks. It takes about 2 months to come over, so by the height of the summer we should have the new replacement wings for the Blenheim. So these wings will become surplus. They'll become a backdrop in one of the hangars, which we hope to build on the land next door in the next couple of years. But the new wings will be going on here, so hopefully by spring next year should be looking more like a Blenheim in its original 1940 format, without any damage you see in front of you now. And in a minute we're just going to walk over and we'll have a look at the progress of the Spirit of the Few monument behind. We're now outside on the grass at the museum. Behind you is the 3 Gate Guardian replica Hurricanes that depict 3 aircraft of 32 Squadron, but more importantly we've got the first 2 of 7 life-size sculptures that we commissioned 2 years ago with Spacer at Thanet. It's known as the Spirit of the Few. It's our monument to our heroes, the Few, the Battle of Britain pilots, the 2,938 airmen that flew and fought in the Battle of Britain and are commemorated as the Few. I came up with this idea back in 1990. Originally I was hoping to actually have something similar to this about 200 yards behind me where the original photograph was taken, and it was taken of 6 pilot officers and 1 flight lieutenant of 32 Squadron sitting on the grass in front of one of their Hurricanes. It was taken on the 29th of July 1940, around about 12:30, so hence why there's 12:30 on Keith Gilman's watch behind. And that iconic photograph is every time you pick up a book on the Battle of Britain or magazine, you'll see that iconic photograph. But every time I used to unlock, I used to come down my stairs, I live in the flat behind, and I walked past, I could always imagine seeing those 7 men seated on the grass here. So this evolved into what we now call the Spirit of the Few. A few years ago I had a nasty accident, fell off the Heinkel and injured myself pretty badly. But at that time I thought, I need to achieve this before I do kill myself. So I spoke to my fellow trustees and the volunteers, and they all thought it was a great idea. So we're currently raising the money to pay for this. We've raised about 76,000 of £150,000 required to pay for this installation. Sounds a lot of money, but when you think it's £21,500 for each figure, it is very cheap when you look at monuments that have been erected all over the country and all over the world when they're talking 6-figure sums. And so far we've got Keith Gilman, the only pilot of the 7 that was actually shot down and killed in the Battle of Britain, went missing on the 25th of August 1940. And we've got Peter Gardner. In a couple of weeks' time they'll be joined by Pete Brothers, who was a dear friend of mine for 25 years, who will be seated on the grass here leaning on a chair. And then a few weeks later, John Proctor will be added alongside, and gradually it'll be 7 airmen. The 29th of July this year we unveil this. It will be a closed offence. The museum will be closed on the 29th of July, which is a Friday. But the following day the ropes will be pulled back behind the installation, and then after the 29th of July you can actually come along, sit on the grass, you can come along, you can feel the textures in the bronze, the different materials, the May West here, you can see the text written on the May West. It was before they started painting their bladders yellow, so you can see the front and all the text there. You can even see down to the detail of the eagle and the crown on the tunic buttons on Peter Gardner's uniform. It's going to be a fantastic, groundbreaking, awe-inspiring monument to our heroes, the Few, which is, we hope, is another reason why you'd come along and visit the museum. We don't allow photographs and cameras on the site, but if you have a word with a volunteer before you leave, they'll happily arrange for you to collect your camera, your mobile from your car, or you can leave them safely and securely at reception, and they will come and bring you across the ropes to take photographs with the aircraft. And if you want, you have your photograph taken alongside these airmen seated down. You can even come along and have a picnic alongside them if you wish. But that's one of the big things that's happening this year. We've also recently applied to the RF Museum to acquire a Junkers Ju-52. It's actually a Casa 352, but all intents and purposes it's a Junkers Ju-52. We're currently waiting to see if we're successful. If we are, that's going to be on the grass behind us. We're going to have a rejig of the aircraft behind. We also hope, if we're successful in acquiring that aircraft, we're going to turn it into an education facility, so schools and groups can come along, actually sit in the aircraft and be taught about if the invader came, the story of the Battle of Britain, but actually be in an aircraft that had been seen over the skies in 1940 had Britain been invaded. We're now going to go over and see a Spitfire that we're currently rebuilding. We ran out of time this year, but we'll show you that and explain a little bit of that story there as well. Behind me, you'll see a Battle of Britain film replica Spitfire. This was built in 1968 at Pinewood Studios. It's one of only 3 that I personally know that have survived from the Battle of Britain film. We actually now own all 3. There's 2 complete examples in the Stuart Battle Memorial hangar, and this one we acquired from Flixton back in October last year. It was showing signs of age, unfortunately. It had a collapsed tail, collapsed centre section, but myself, Julian, Robbie Meads, who sadly has recently moved up to Norfolk, I spent a lot of the winter working on this. We've straightened it all up. Unfortunately, Julian had to have a shoulder operation, which took him out of action because we need to weld up the centre section so we can start organising mounting the wings on and start putting the skins back on. But this is a project we started this winter and will be finished next winter. Once it is finished, we've got to decide whose aircraft we're going to actually portray, possibly something like Sailor Milan maybe, but that'll be actually out on the grass as you come into the museum car park as a gate guardian there, we hope. But within the next couple of years, we'll be acquiring some land alongside where we'll be putting up additional hangars. So she'll only be outside for a couple of years until we acquire the land, put the hangars up, then she'll be coming undercover. But that's one of the other projects we've been working on this winter. We've now moved to the museum's Armoury building. This was the actual RAF Armoury for RAF Hawkinge. It was built in 1927. It's actually damaged in the Battle of Britain. The 12th of August, number 3 hangar behind was destroyed, and the explosion actually lifted up the roof and moved it across slightly, which has always caused a lot of problems with water ingression. Hopefully we've cured that problem these days, but one of our main winter jobs this year was completely ripping out the original First World War cabinet here, making a bigger display cabinet. It's deeper and higher, so all the exhibits you've seen before are better displayed. There's more room and space there for you to see. This is something we've been literally working on this weekend. Tomorrow we'll be fitting in the proper shelves. We put some dummy shelves in at the moment, but they've been painted today and they'll be going in tomorrow. This cabinet is nearly finished. There's thousands of exhibits in there. When you look at them, it actually took up 2 rooms, actually laying the exhibits out on the floor. But we've carefully mounted everything in there. So you've even got an aerial dogfight with First World War aircraft made out of plastic kits above, with some artwork, some beautifully painted propeller blades from damaged aircraft from the First World War, down to incredibly rare anti-tank, German anti-tank rifle, to aerial Vickers, aerial Lewis, aerial Maxim machine guns, the different sorts of Maxim machine guns that we use on the ground. So it's a real treasure trove of First World War exhibits. So hopefully you'll come along, see those. The museum is constantly improving and expanding. We're still working down to the wire, putting up new captions for some of the exhibits. We've got lots of other bits and pieces we've been added. And we try to add something every day or every week to the museum. So every time you visit, there's something new to see. And obviously if you've been before, you know you physically can't take everything in one visit. We've got a very nice cafe open on site. We've rebuilt the kitchen there. It's double the size of the kitchens. They're now doing a wider range of food. So you can come and have a full English breakfast. You can have a lunch, or you can have a supper before you leave. So it's a museum you can now come along and stay a whole day or half day if you wish. You can get your food, you can do a couple of buildings, have a break, have a cup of tea and some homemade cake, continue your visit if you wish. But lots to see, and we hope to see you soon. We open this Saturday, the 2nd of April, throughout the summer, Tuesdays to Sundays, closed Mondays except for bank holidays, and obviously remember the 29th of July we're closed for the unveiling of the monument, and we close for the winter on the 13th of November. So thank you for joining us. We hope you found the videos interesting. It gives you a little bit of insight to what we do over the winter during our closed period, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you.